Hey, welcome to the Gym Club.
It's cool that you're listening to this. Person listening to it.
We appreciate you.
Or robot.
Yes.
We're still at the point of all of this where we get pretty stoked on the download counts going up.
Mm-hmm.
And we appreciate all of you who listen and write reviews and all of that stuff. Someday we'll be famous enough that we won't care about that. We'll be like, the numbers don't matter. But to us right now, for our ego, it helps.
So thank you.
So if you're a family member tuning in, you can just put this on silent, play it on your phone, help get our numbers up.
That's it. That's what we need. But anyway, welcome to the Gym Club podcast. I'm your host, Deangelo.
I'm your host, Adam.
And today, it's just Adam and myself.
It's just the two of us.
Just the two. No, we're not doing that.
And we're going to talk about whatever the people want to talk about.
We do have listeners, so we aren't making this up. I swear that people ask us questions, and so we got a few things that
we got some questions submitted from the internet. They were like, Adam, talk about this stuff.
Yeah.
Say these things, and some of it's controversial.
Well, yeah, some of it is controversial.
I promise to give my full answer on things
if you answer the thing. So we got a very wide range, or like a wide demographic, you know. We aren't necessarily trying to hit one person. You know, we aren't looking for like X, Y, Z. We're looking from like A to Z.
Yeah,
we
exactly.
All the characteristics.
Yeah. Because the Gym Club is for people who are doing their own thing in their own way. And that encompasses a lot of different types of people doing a lot of different types of things. We have like, if you go back through and listen to old episodes, you see people running part-time businesses, full-time businesses, one-person businesses, leading teams, in-person stuff.
Having kids.
Like just having kids, having no kids, working with family, not working with family, working by themselves, been doing things that they were trained to do in school. Other people teach themselves how to do everything. There's some people we've had on who do like 25 different things, and that sort of makes up their professional career, and they're not all like... Yeah. When you go talk to that group of people and you're like, give us topics to talk about, you get a pretty wide range back.
Mm-hmm.
So this is sort of reflective of that.
This is the catch. Like we casted a net out.
Do you think we should start with things that are like most pertaining to businesses and then generate out into weird things? Or should we start at weird things and move into business combo?
What if we like did a 1-2? It's like
we alternate back and forth.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. So
which one should we start with?
Oh, I got you. I'm ready.
Okay.
One of the things that like, you know, we're taught as kids in the Midwest, I'm not sure about, you know, other regions of the country, but I could almost say with certainty that like most of us were taught to like not talk about money. You know what I mean? And that can be kind of hampering because it's like it limited our negotiating ability. It made us self-conscious about the amount of money that we make and just different things. And so one of the questions that a listener, I was going to say a reader, why do I keep wanting to say a reader? I don't write anything.
Yeah, we're like doing a column. We're like, this reader submitted a question.
Yeah,
someone wrote in a question.
There it is.
That person listens to this audio.
And I'm a reader.
And we read the question that the listener submitted.
Wow, so it is like
there's a lot of different things going on.
So many different channels. But a listener wanted to know, like, is it still taboo in 2021 to talk about money? And I would have to say, if I could kick it off, I'll say no, but I understand that it's a thing that people still do. I'll say it's not taboo to talk about money because you should discuss with your peers and like especially constituents, you know, at your job. You're like, hey, I make this much. And, you know, and your job's always like, don't talk about it. You should definitely talk about it. And you guys should figure out where what the pay scale is. You know what I mean? Because it's not like, it shouldn't be a secret how much people make. We all have to make money. We all have to pay bills. It's like, it's your business, right? And so we can always say like, oh, well, I make about, or I make around, you know? But you don't have to be like, oh, we should have talked, wait a minute now.
Yeah.
Now, I don't know. Some people are also very private and protective.
At other places that you've worked, have you felt like, do people keep it a secret or people pretty open about how much they're getting paid at that place where you also are working?
So recently, right, I've worked with some young people, and they were very adamant about like discussing paychecks in front of, or discussing the pay.
The amount in front of being transparent. Yeah.
But like in front of authority
like
figures.
bosses around, whatever, just
they're like throwing it out, and they're like, hey, and he's, and you know, this one person specifically that I'm thinking of would be like, we should talk about this because he's like laying out actual reasons, unlike mine. I'm just like, that's what we're supposed to do. You know, when you're community building, you should figure this out, and then it gives,
because there's a lot of places. I mean, there's a lot of places that don't pay people very fairly, or you find out. I have family who is working at a larger organization, and asks people that, is very like candid about how much they make, and was telling other people, is like, I just started, was this, and like a signing bonus and other stuff, and found out one of their teammates who was in a population that is not often like treated amazingly in corporate structures was making less, doing the same job and whatever, and help that person walk and figure out a way to go get their, sort of equal things out. If like, if you're getting paid to do this job and I'm doing this job, then you get paid a similar amount or whatever. But then at the same time, you flip it. So we just do this, I have to do this with our team. I think about this all the time, is when we make salaries for people, or, I work with people I care about. I got some family members, got some friends working on our team, like, and have some strangers, have some people who we found on LinkedIn who are really good. And we're like, hey, want you to come work here. Because I saw what you do on LinkedIn. We should talk. And we always think about it like, is our pay structure defensible? Like, if I would expect at some point someone screenshots something and shares it with the whole world, because that's the world that we live in presently, would I be able to explain why people are getting paid what they're getting paid? And would I be, because I'm not an idiot, I understand how the internet gets angry at people and how things are perceived. I understand perception. And I understand, like, okay, so how does it look if all of that gets shared? What critique am I going to get, right? And so I think and sometimes it's hard. Like, it'd be easier for me to take a lot more money out of this company if I tried to keep that more secretive. If I was like, didn't want all that to happen. But I think ultimately you're like, I'm kind of with you a little bit of like, if you're working somewhere and people don't want you talking about that, I would ask, why don't you want that conversation happening, and who benefits from that conversation happening and not happening?
Exactly. Listeners, that's a great point.
Well, I will say it on the flip side of like, as a business owner who's deciding what other people are paid here, it does make me uncomfortable to know, like, it does, I do have like feelings, I feel myself like, be like, all compensation gets leaked, or not leaked or whatever, but someone logs into and sees everybody's stuff. I'd be pretty okay with that in our current setting. I'm not sure it will all be interpreted the way that I think of it or see it, or the way we, it's like, I do this with my other business partners. I'm not like sole dictator of compensation.
Right.
But
hey, Ashley and
there's reasons that we got to where we got to. But I also would need people with less context to be okay with that too.
No, that makes
so
sense.
it's a hard thing to, I can understand sometimes there's like, people don't always understand all the context to things. And
you got to think of like, you have to think about it like you are a white male, heterosexual white man. So it always like it would look much worse,
Right, like if
it's like a multiplier.
Yeah, like if I'm making 25 times as much as you, and people see our photos next to each other, they're like, hey, this dude makes 25 times as much as this dude. The internet would like have a field day with that, right? But also, if I make 25 times as much as you, there's like a lot of profit margin. Well, I don't make 25 times as much as you. I'm for sure certain of that. I know how much we both get paid, so I don't.
Right.
But at the same time, I think it's actually an interesting. I look at the work that we do. Like part of my life is living amongst my teammates, and not like, I'm not like ghosting everyone. I'm like also trying to hang out like in my free time with some people who are on our team, right? So it's like, I want to create an environment where we all feel good together. You know, we all like, it's not weird. It's not like.
It's funny that you say that, Adam, because like when they don't want you to talk about money, they also don't want you hanging out with like your subordinates.
Yeah.
What what would be considered a subordinate. And so,
but I worked at a big environment that I wasn't allowed to. It was like fraternizing, you know, like doing whatever stuff. At some point, I like knew I was going to leave there, and I was a manager, and my team was like, "Come get drinks with this bar," and I was like, "All right, I'll be there." I'm not. And they were like, "This is amazing." I was like, "I would get fired if I was here, but I'm gonna quit anyway, so it's fine."
Yeah, I've worked at places where like they would keep bringing it up, or they would like, and it was just such a weird thing. It's like y'all don't see the divide that this creates, because it becomes management versus employees, and then like the people who are creating this world like have assumed none of the blame.
Yeah.
And whenever they visit, it's like a big production. It's like we're on Broadway, and everything's got to be like super clean. We got to be like whatever, doing the best customer service impersonation, all this goofiness. All right, so speaking of goofiness, Adam,
we can talk about money. It's good to talk about money. The only people who benefit from not talking about money are people who are already in power of stuff. And I might be a little uncomfortable, but I'm in charge here, like from a power structure. So I'm not really vulnerable. I might be uncomfortable at times, but I'm not actually vulnerable. It's good for everybody to look at things. And if people see how hard I work and I'm not making that much more than them, then probably they'll be like, dang, you should get a raise. You should make more.
What if we leaked this information and like tried to start a GoFundMe or something?
Yeah.
Anonymously.
Yeah. Just change it. I don't need to GoFundMe. We don't even feel bad about that.
We're doing good. We're doing good.
Yeah.
So I like that, man. Let's kind of stay on that. I know we said that we'd go back and forth, but we were talking about not hanging out with your subordinates. So how do you feel as a business owner, right? Like having to run a business, but also like you're a creative person. I don't think you mention this often, or people may not know this about you, but like you've taken pictures and you've built websites, and you're good at it. I've seen the pictures that you've taken. I've seen like 3 or 4.
I've done some.
I've seen like 7 or 8.
Yeah.
I've seen like 13 or 14. So like you're pretty good at this. And how do you balance like being a business person versus like aligning with creators? Like you're like, you have to charge a price, for a thing, but you're also like, I understand like being creative and wanting to pay people fairly, or like, I feel like oftentimes they're on opposite ends of the spectrum.
Yeah, a lot of times we just put. My friend Peter asked this question, and he and I have had a relationship for a while. And I remember this one time he told me, he's like, sometimes I just like love business so much. Like he's like, I got into the business I'm into because I knew it was a good business to run. He told me that he wakes up in the morning and just pumps his fist, and it's like business, like here we go. Let's put on a tie and get to work, Oh, yeah. And I backed into that. I backed into running a business through starting creative stuff, like wanting to do weird and different things, and then backed into how do I do this sustainably and eat and make a career out of it. Is you start running a business so it's profitable and works, and you can make money and you can hire people and all this other stuff. And I've watched him sort of back into creativity, doing some of his own stuff. And we have this, like, we get together every once in a while and we're like, trade stories, where he's like, I'm trying to figure out how to be creative. And I'm like, I'm trying to figure out how to like tighten up this business I'm running. And he's like, oh, that's like, I've been doing that for the last 5 years. And I was like, I've been doing weird stuff for the last 5 years. So we can help each other out a bit.
There you go.
So Peter asked that, and I know what he means is this weird tension we have of independent people. Like a business is built on trust and people being like, I can work with you and I know what to expect. And the more you can do that, I can trust that I'm going to get the thing that I think I'm going to get, which is why chain restaurants work, because every Starbucks in the world give you the same bad burnt coffee. Unless you like it, that's cool. You can like it, but it's not as good as other things. But people don't, not everyone likes that, but it's consistent. You know what you're going to get, and people like that certainty. And so as you're running a business, but in the arts and creative space, you have to sort of like How do I deliver creative and surprising and interesting things, but with certainty that will happen? And that will be the outcome. And it's really hard. And it's I think it's one of the things that's unique about all of the stuff that we do is we've sort of committed to staying artistic in the things that we do rather than mechanical. And so even in the way that we're structured, our teammates, the artists on our team, whenever they're working on, we've built a whole system that lets them do their thing within delivering to a client that hasn't tried to like put them in a box. And so there is this thing of like leaving independence and the business structures of it all that work. I think the thing that's been most important, so like Peter asked that question, is if I burn out, I am done. Like our business is done if I burn out or Allie burns out or, whatever. And I have found that I myself, if I have to do the same thing repetitively over time, I can't do that. My brain will shut down and do other things, or I'll sabotage or whatever. Like I had to learn to work with me. I am my brain is the one that I've got. I don't have someone else's. My skill set and experiences are the ones that I have and were given and life has put in front of me. And I don't have a different one. And I can't do other things. But I can only do what it comes sort of naturally, or skills that I can build on. And you've got to just build around that, whatever that is. And so if you're the type of person who does, I think I've said this on other versions of this, but you have to know what game you're playing when it comes to what business you're running. And if you're running Peter and one of his business partners started a property management firm, and they know what game they're playing, and they know they're not the biggest one in the country, nor are they the smallest one. They know what they're trying to accomplish. They know what that all looks like. They know the challenges. They know the technology involved, and that's the game you're playing. And I think for us, we had to learn. For me, I had to learn what game I'm playing, and it's like I could make a lot more money doing a different thing. I could do similar things what I'm doing now at a larger company, and I could make a lot more money. But I don't want to do that. I want to do what I'm doing now. And I think for me, I wasn't a business person or a creative person. I was a community person first, of being like, I moved to this city. I met interesting and unique people doing interesting and unique things in a small business. And I was like, this is awesome. I just want to hang out in here all the time. I worked at other marketing firms that worked with larger brands. And I was like, but you all don't work with small businesses. And those small businesses are the best. It's cool that you worked with a huge company, but this is boring to me. I'd rather go work with there's a Italian restaurant down the street that's like run by a family and they don't market well, but their food's amazing. I'd rather figure out I want to hang out with them. They're doing cool stuff. They're in the neighborhood. They're doing all that. And then working, the creative thing came later and the running a business thing came later. But I was like, I just want to help these people. And so that was for me, it wasn't a balancing of those two things. It was just like those two things came very secondary to the community piece. Like, who do I want to spend my life? We spend a lot of our life working, and who do I spend my life with? And it's the people I spend my life with now.
That's nice, man. That's really that's a really valiant point. I feel like there's a lot of people out there that wish to conduct their business in a similar way, but obstacles are what they are.
Yeah.
So going kind of along with that, man, like that was good. I really like that, because I like to think of myself the same way. It's like, there's no amount of money that will like actually make you happy. I've never received an amount of money or up until this point where I've been like, oh man, I'm happy. But like I've helped people like, there used to be a laundromat at King and High, and I helped random strangers like carry their laundry up the steps into their house from like right there. I've like helped people in wheelchairs in the snow. I gave this lady my hat one night, and just stuff like that was like more fulfilling than anything. It's really.
Yeah, I think that's true. I think there's a book called Drive by, I forget the author's name, but there's a good TED talk, or there's a good YouTube talk. It's like 13 minutes long. If you go search for it. It's called Drive, and it's I think Daniel Pink is the guy's name. Could be wrong, but he talks about there's 3 things that actually motivate people. Money, like people need like shelter, food, taken care of, removal of stress. But what people really drives people is autonomy, mastery, and purpose are the 3 things he talks about. And I resonated with those a lot. And autonomy being you can do the thing that you can do things in your own way. And that might be at a large company, you have the space to do it the way you want to do it. Mastery, meaning you can get really, really good at something. I want to do things that I can be or am really good at. I like feeling like I'm good at the stuff I do. And then purpose being it matters. Like me working here matters. And in a lot of ways, the scaling and growth of a business often strips away all 3 of those things. And like autonomy, meaning like do things how you want to. They're actually like do things the way that the job description, out McDonald's isn't hiring people to make fries and telling them just like kind of vibe with, what kind of fries do you want to make,
right.
Or would you be proud to serve? They're playing a different game there. Mastery would be like, you can only be as good at making fries as speed. You're just a speed game, right? It's like an efficiency thing. You can't be better at that than you are. And they've built the whole game so that people who are brand new in 1 week can get very competent at it. So you're going to top out there. And purpose is like the only way that stuff matters is like for the paycheck you're getting.
Exactly.
But it's not, that's it. Or the job progression. You're like, you could be a manager one day. You could do some other thing. And it's like, that stuff runs out so fast, And so I think there's a lot of pressure against, as a business owner, and trying to build a business, I can just keep expanding and growing and growing and growing. But if I want to offer and afford my teammates or employees the same thing, then we're going to have a little bit of a mess that we're going to have to work through, For sure. And it's a big deal. But I think that community thing, we just like sat through COVID, right? It's like we knew small businesses that went to like zero real fast. We knew some that popped off because they were in a particular industry. We know people, we have friends who are out of work or out of whatever, didn't know how to navigate the systems, didn't know how to whatever. We had like small businesses who got tired of waiting on PPP funds, so they gave up and they missed out on a bunch of, it's like I just always think of the community of like, if it became really clear for us, like if there's some people in our life who, if they're not good, then we're not good. And then there's other people who are like a lot of degrees removed from me that are, I don't have a lot of space to help them in those spots. And it just became real evident. And I think the community focus of the stuff that we're trying to do was like, other employees at the company who were there at the time, like looked at Allie and I, and they're just like, we just want you guys, we want to make sure that we can keep working here for as long as we can. And you're like, cool. That's community. That's like everyone's trying to make this all work at the same time,
Exactly.
And it's been, it's like this, I don't think of it as attention. I just think of it as like there's a different facet and lens to look at of community, of your network, of your people, your village. And sometimes if you look at it through that lens, the balance of like creativity, independence, interdependence allows to become more obvious. You start making different decisions.
Speaking of making decisions, man, we had someone ask about like mental health, and it's such a broad topic, and sometimes people use it like that is, an actual diagnosis, and it's like,
yeah, I think
very strange.
The person who asked it I talked to a decent amount on the internet, and I was curious. I don't know if they were asking about like mental health in general or like how we manage it or I manage it.
But I was going to definitely ask you how you managed it.
Yeah.
Because, and I've mentioned this, like, I feel like I've mentioned it just about every episode. When you are doing something that's as abstract or doing something like freelance or, an abstract job where you're not like expected to perform like such and such processes for like X amount of result, and then that result is like your paycheck or whatever. This one's like, I have to Maybe you're building websites. Maybe you're taking pics. Maybe you are writing code for a video game. There are so many feelings that come along with that. Frustration, anxiety, impatience, and sitting in those feelings make them chronic, and that's where you kind of get into like, the danger zone, where it's like those are feelings that happen often, and you're like, oh man, I have to mitigate these feelings. However, and I mean, the attempt to like alleviate, some of those things is where we get into trouble. Self-medicating and disassociating and that sort of thing. And so, what I find like is the easiest thing to do is just like take a walk, because you're just kind of, stretching your legs and getting some air, but also your mind can process things like that. It's sort of like a eureka theory. Like it may not be the first thing on your mind, but it's still getting worked out. And also, those endorphins, we need those. So you get to walking and, you get your blood flowing and you get some endorphins, and you might have a whole new perspective on a problem or a thing that you were thinking about. If it wasn't like a life problem, maybe it was just a problem in your work or whatever.
Yeah, no, I think going on a walk is like a universal, amazing thing. It's like sometimes there's a lot of problems that going on a walk outside can solve. There's a lot of, not all of them, but there's a lot of things that it can take care of. Mm-hmm. And one of my internet friends, Amy, had just written a really long and beautiful thing about being it was like a year later in life, and she just was like stuck, and she just started walking. She like would walk like 20 miles a day. She just walk all the time is all she did. And that stuff changes people, like fundamentally changes people in a bunch of different ways. And I think sometimes it's like, you just got to do. I think sometimes when I think of mental health, I think of like, I think our brains are all that we have. Really, our life is like our brains are like a rock, and our entire lives and bodies are just like a string tied around a rock. It's not. Our brain's not one part of our body. It's like pretty much the whole part of our body. It is so much. And I think as I've learned more about a human brain and learning about how to take care of that, and learning about psychology and how our thoughts are formed and all those things, a person has to figure out how to take care of themselves and how to take care of their own brain. And because we're all formed by different trauma and experiences and wiring, and all the connections are different, and they've been formed so much. Mm-hmm. And you've got to just have to figure it out. For me, it looks like, I'm like a pretty energetic person naturally. And so I find anytime I can slow down more, whether that's meditation or yoga or going on a walk or not looking at my screens of things for a while, like all of this stuff to just slow down, the better I do when I'm at a high pace of thinking or any of those things. So even like there's a lot of different ways to get information, but I like reading books because reading books is a slow way of processing through something. You can listen to a podcast and cover a lot of ground. You can listen to an audiobook and cover the ground a lot faster, but your brain doesn't process information the same way. And so I every morning I like wake up and I read. It's the first thing I do, and I journal and write and just be aware of my own thoughts. I spend time in meditation, and often I like try to physically push myself so that I'm not like don't have body energy just stored up being frustrated. You like learn that there's times of the day that if you eat something or don't eat something, you start to feel your brain isn't happy. It's like your brain sometimes just likes to be mad, if you eat or don't eat at certain times. And I've also just learned like talking to people is really important. And so there's times like finding good friends or finding a therapist or finding a coach or finding I have a friend who whenever I'm at the gym and I find myself like telling myself stupid stories, like that person next to you is a lot smaller than you, but they're lifting more weight than you, you should probably, I'll like text that friend and be like, hey, it's okay that the person next to me, nobody would expect me to be lifting less, but my shoulders are hurt and I've got to like take care of that.
Exactly.
And by trying to like outpace some person, so like even being aware of your own thoughts and your mental game, and then bringing truth into it is the second part. Being like, we can know that we think things, and it's like, I don't know when I'll ever feel. I have like pretty bad shoulders, and so I do certain lifts with shoulders, and I'll hold a 5 or 10 pound weight, which just in my hands feels. I played football in college. That feels like an embarrassing thing. I can imagine like teammates laughing in that scenario if someone walked in and saw that I was doing that seriously and taking that seriously.
Well, also, there's a thing. Weight training and weightlifting are two different things.
Yeah.
So if anybody understands that, like, if I seen someone like of your size with like 5 pound weights, that's what I'll be thinking. I'm like, oh, this guy might be doing just weight training, just trying to get some like you said, get some of that energy off you.
I had a coach in the past who would often talked about, he said, aware, invite, share was the sort of his like 3 steps of that, of being aware of how you're thinking, invite truth into it, of like whatever that truth is, of being like, oh, I should do it. And you're like, why did I think that? Okay, I thought that because of this. What's true? Truth isn't, I don't need to feel bad at all. I don't even need to care. No one cares. And then share is being like talking about it and processing it externally helps to invite community into it, and invites it like normalizes it. I feel like I can be myself. Like I have friends all over the place that I feel like not like everything, but with that one friend, I'm like, you're my gym. You're the recipient of my like sharing of my silly brain things when I'm at the gym. And it just makes me be like, oh yeah, you're gonna feel like. So then the next day I go in, I have the same feelings. I'm like, oh yeah, all right, process through this. I'm like, I'm getting better at like, I'm okay with a 5 pound thing because I'm trying to make my shoulder like work for the next 80 years or whatever, So it's I think the mental game is like, if you gotta. I would throw all the resources you have at it. I don't think, it seems like as people get on in life, once that goes, that's all you got.
That's it. And it's funny that you say that because like I was mentioning, like, doing business, like I was saying, like as an entrepreneur, but also learning new things. Like there's a lot of that same energy with myself. I'll remember when I first started in the script, like when I was here, it was a lot easier to use. The computer is like really big, the screen's ginormous comparatively, and it just runs a lot smoother. And so when I would go home and I was working on it on my own, I kind of like would get really frustrated, and I would just be like, and it was because I was doing more detailed work as well. So it wasn't just like, oh, this is the computer's fault. It was like, oh, I have to figure out how to do this, and there wasn't a real instruction manual at the time. They were just kind of like, we have these features and you can figure out how to use it.
I think for a creative or entrepreneurial person who is doing their, like there are probably a million tutorials about how to do the thing you're supposed to be doing, but you also want to do it in a way that feels like you know, like, and so even if there's a million tutorials, they're not exactly how you're going to do it.
Exactly.
And there's so much more like mental game that, we played. I think that's one of the things we just, with our team, we just started doing a mental health stipend to, we call it wellness stipend, because we found, like, I sit with everybody on our team and we talk a lot, and the things that were limiting people's production, creativity, output, whatever those things are, a lot of times it's not information, it's not even really time. It's like, how creative can you be? Like, how much space do you have to take care of yourself? It's like we say on our team, we say self-care is lifeblood. It's like, that's the blood of, because we're doing creative problem solving work all the time. We're not just stamping metal here. We're every time a different person walks in the studio, it's a different thing. We're paying attention. We're like, we try to have a lot of empathy. And if you don't have your mental game on that, you lose all of it. You know, you lose all the advantage. It's not a good time for people. You can't take creative feedback well if you're like mental games not on. You start taking things personally. You're not there to really help the client.
You kind of create things in your head too. You're like, oh man, this person won't like this, or it snowballs.
Yeah.
But like I was saying, it was very frustrating, and so having to do that after a few episodes, I was like, okay, this is gonna be frustrating, but I can get through it. You do it in a few hours, and then I got to a point where I could like do it in one day, or do it over one night. Right? I would stay up till like 6 a.m. and do it, and now I'm like, I could just do it in like 6 hours. Like if I had a work shift, I could just do it over, a work shift. So
you can do it at a normal work day.
Exactly.
You're like, it's a normal part of all of it. But yeah, you got to manage all of that.
Yeah, man. So that was a breath. And what we're doing now is we're just gently switching gears. So we had another listener. I want to call him a viewer this time. But see, we're not on TV.
We don't know. I don't know how people consume this. Maybe they stare at the scroll bar while it's playing. So they watch it play.
Damn. Or maybe they like look at pictures on
Go on
Instagram.
a walk. I would suggest you go on a walk while you're listening to this.
100%. If it's not cold and stuff.
But even then, you can still walk when it's cold. Humans been doing it for a while.
That's a good point. So, but like I was saying, one of the viewers, damn it, see, it happened.
I got you.
We're on TV. One of the viewers, one of the listeners, asked about nature versus nature. Maybe they meant nurture, but maybe they meant nature. Maybe they were like...
Do you think they typoed?
Maybe they were like hippos versus rhinos.
Talk about nature versus nature.
I mean, because like cats and dogs fight, like, animals fight in the wild, like crocodiles. Mm-hmm. It's not a fight though. It's like
It's like the Nature is Metal subreddit where they show you the realness of
the animal shows.
Of the animal kingdom, and it's like some of it's fun. Like I can't watch. This is intense.
Yeah, but it's like UFC, but like if people in the UFC bit each other, it'd be way worse. Like the fact they use feet. And
we should advocate for more biting in the UFC. Yeah, the fact they don't allow that really hampers the competition.
No, you think the fact that they don't is really great for me. I don't watch it because it's it's pretty rough for me.
If you get WWE, we get a little bit of biting in there.
Oh yeah, that's comical. Yeah. But I have a hard time watching football anymore just because of knowing better. I'm like, man, these guys. Sir, if you could play this for 1 year, sir, you could like switch. You
no, I don't. What do you?
You could like pivot out of football, like you know what I'm saying. You get signed to the NFL. You play for a year or two, and then you stop.
Our pal Emily wrote Nature versus Nature.
Okay,
but I think nature versus nurture is probably the topic. I don't think Emily would want us to hear us talk about nature versus nature.
Maybe I feel like Emily wanted to hear us talk about rhinos versus hippos.
Yeah. Which one wins? Rhino versus hippo?
If I had to guess, oh man, I'd say the rhino. But because they're like the same size as a hippo.
Hippo be scary though.
Hippo's got a humongous mouth.
Yeah.
Well, nature versus nurture though. So if we are talking about nature versus nurture,
which I'm assuming that is.
Yeah. No.
Also, Emily's on point, and it's funny to think of her typoing. Like she doesn't seem like a typo type of person.
That's my thing too. I'm like, this person is like really smart.
So we're sitting here being like, it's obviously nature versus nurture, but we're just like, I don't know, I trust Emily enough that maybe she meant nature versus nature.
And also, like, I'm silly enough to where I'm like, this typo still works. But no, all right. So in business, I feel like that's a good point because you may have grown up in an environment that was more conducive to being like an entrepreneur. Maybe your people were handymen. Like
my family, right, is like they weren't entrepreneurs like making tech companies, but my grandpa had a factory that he ran. My dad had a farm he ran. Uncle had a real estate auction business. Other uncle had a restaurant. Probably more than my grandma and my great aunt had an antique mall that they ran together. People been selling crafts and doing other things. When I was like a little kid, I think I've talked about on the podcast, like having, You know, like we didn't think of it as entrepreneur. We weren't like, oh, we're a great family of entrepreneurs, but it's just like everybody had a business that they ran. That I think that's what an entrepreneur is, you know, and had multiples. So it's like, that's what that is. I just didn't know that I could walk around like at a entrepreneurship convention and be like, oh yeah, it's my family thing. I didn't even know.
No, I mean, and like there were, like in my family it would be more like, you know, I'm a handyman and like I do this, or I'm a mechanic and I, you know, like my dad's a very handy person, so like he'll like ride around and fix things all day.
And they would do stuff and get paid for it, but it wasn't like, in today's world, it'd be like, oh, Elon Musk, entrepreneur, isn't that cool? We should all be entrepreneurs. Rihanna's amazing. Why? Because you make dope music, for sure, but also she like made a bunch of companies that she runs. Like, that's cool now. And it probably wasn't cool when we were coming out of college in the same way. Nobody was like, you know, it wasn't the same thing. I always think there's the like nature versus nurture conversation around this is, you and I talk about this a lot anyways, of just being like, you just got to show up with where you are. Like you can't be a different person. You know, you can't be like, you know, neither you nor I went to Harvard and got an MBA. And maybe if we did, things would be different, or we'd be in a different spot probably. Even if we're the exact same experiences other than that, that whole thing would just be different. And there's just not much you can like drive yourself
crazy
batty trying to think about the way things are different, or you look at someone else running a business that's got like X, Y, and Z that you don't have, or they have some other thing that's not really part of your game. It's not like in your, you know,
it's not in your wheelhouse.
Yeah, it'd be really cool. You know, you're like, oh, I watch this all the time with our clients where they'll be like, want to do a particular type of business or want to do a certain thing. I'm like, you're not, you know, they're like, I should make an amazing TikTok channel. I'm like, well, you're not like very charismatic in front of a camera, and you don't really have many ideas of how to be. So
that's probably not.
What are you gonna do? Yeah. You know, like you're just who you are. I think sometimes like there's so much of that. Like there's obviously ways that being from my family has shaped me to be advantageous in the world that I'm in now. And there's like experiences that I got that I didn't even know I was getting, you know, that are really cool for me and our company benefits from. And the same for you. He's like, there's a lot of stuff you bring to the table that's like
it's not traditional.
It's not traditional, yeah. But
in a good way.
Yeah. And then there's other times we have other teammates who like went to college for the thing they did. They always knew they wanted to do the thing they were doing, and then they're doing it now. And it's like, that's really cool too. There's like a lot of upside to that. So it's like,
it's very intentional, and I feel like the more you prepare for something, the better you'll be at it. So it only makes sense that
truth,
you know.
In the nature versus nurture, it doesn't matter. It matters a lot in that it's real and true, and we can study it. But what do we do with it?
Just matters a little bit.
Yeah, it just matters a little bit.
That's it. I'm with you, bro. I don't know, man. Yeah, I would say if you went to the neighborhood I grew up in and you talked to some of the people, you would make a strong case for nurture, you know, because like the environment is not like who I am. It's very like opposite or whatever. But
I think that
there's still beautiful people that live there.
If we go back to the mental health conversation and the brain takes all of it. Like you just get you get like a big block of, you know, you have a brain and it gets shaped by all sorts of stuff. You can change your wiring through practice, and you're also like all the experiences you have like shape it, and it's really hard to overcome. You know, that the people often, there's like famous phrases like you're the sum of the 5 people you spend the most time with, or the books you read, or whatever. But there's some of it all. Like it all is a big influence on you. Your genetics are a big influence on you, obviously. But also there's the whole experience. All of it is. It's hard to. You can't really tease it out. And I don't think it does much to like. You got to figure out what you're trying to do and do it. You know, you can decide on like why things are the way they are, but
just gotta like I don't know, man. You gotta start where you're at, like you said.
Totally.
You can't be like, I don't have facts. Like,
and even if that's justified, right? Like we sit and talk about, and we observe like a lot of different people be entrepreneurs starting at some spot and have a lot of challenges in front of them that are very valid, very, very valid challenges that the world not really set up to help them out. And they still got to be themselves. Like we can sit and like get mad at the world for being stupid, but we're still here. It's like this is the water we swim in. So we got to figure out what to do with what we are now.
It's rough sometimes, but I hate that. Sometimes it's just like, it's like a meme that someone dropped into the Slack channel earlier today about positivity. That's just like, I can't remember if it was overarching or something. We're having the research department look it up real quick. Let me
talk to the intern. You're like, yo, intern.
Yo, Craig.
Look up Craig, the intern.
Craig, look up in the Slack channel. You don't even look at him. You just like with your fingers. You're like,
if Craig was on it, he would know to be looking this up before we even brought it up. Where was this in?
It was in random or soil.
Was it in random? It wasn't in the. Yeah, it was in random. Ominous positivity was the thing. Matt had shared this today.
Ominous positivity is like that's what
like,
that
this
last
is looming.
Yeah,
like,
it was like that last thing. It's like, hey man, the good times are coming.
Yeah, it was like better days are already coming. It's too late now.
Yeah, you feel me? It's like
you will succeed. It is inevitable. And I think there's that. I love that.
So no, that was actually a pivot into the next topic. So you are a bit of a meme lord,
a collector of memes for sure.
No, I would say
cataloger.
Yeah,
distributor,
like a meme
dealer,
a meme sommelier.
Yeah.
No, because So let's actually get into
it's
this.
A craft. I spend time on the craft.
No, Adam, because I think that you are even undermining your own research and history with memes. Have you ever been emailed a viral thing?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
See, you already surpassed. I'd say about like 30% of Twitter. 30%.
I think so. I think memes are so prevalent now.
No, you have to like unpack it because it started.
It started back.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Like you and I are old enough to remember an internet that wasn't very full of memes, right?
You ever been to E-Bombs World?
Yeah, I've been to E-Bombs World.
Yeah, see, like there's a lot of memes that live there.
Yeah.
Newgrounds, there was a lot of memes that live there.
My brother is 10 years younger than me, and I get a lot of he shows me a lot of stuff that's cool and new that I hadn't seen before, which is great. So he helps my taste in music, or like he finds like these channels in the world that I wouldn't have found without him, which is cool. I make up for it because I show him 2006 trending videos that he had no idea. Like he had no idea that those were memes that are like, someone who's 36 like just knows because the internet was there. That's what I think my savvy with memes came because it was so new that I had to explain it to people like conceptually, that a meme isn't a funny thing. The funny thing that you see is a meme, but a meme is like has a meaning. Like the word meme has a definition. And so if you understand,
break that down for us.
Well, so if you, I'll look it up to be like factual.
We're gonna get Craig on that again.
But a meme is like an inside joke is a subcategory of a meme. It's not that there's just like funny images that people send to each other. They're these communication signals that we quickly understand that we are on the same page very fast with almost nothing, So like people would be like, picture's worth 1,000 words. It's not true. A meme is worth 1,000 words because if you and I laugh at the same meme, it can tell us like
so many different
we're on the
things.
same page in regards to money and class and status and religion what's funny and what's inappropriate and who's stupid, and we can like signal like 100 things at once. And I think it's amazing to be able to like many Sundays I run a meme day on my Instagram story, and I collect memes over time, and people send me memes over time, and I send them one back. I have a very strict like take a meme, give a meme policy. If you send me one, you get one back. And memes are like a thing that aren't branded, like they don't have ownership of them. And sometimes people do that. They're like, I made that meme, and then you just shared it. And it's like, I'm like, that's not how memes work. Memes work. Or they'll like tag me in a meme they share. I'm like, you don't do that. It's just you share it. It's like this, it like transcends ownership culture. It's just about like the hit. Will this piece of art or this thing work in other scenarios?
And my favorite thing, because I haven't thought about memes like that, but my favorite thing is memes that are in a different language. Like I've seen memes that are in a different language that are the exact same as a language I understand, and I'm like, oh, I know what this says, and or I have an idea of what this says, and this is funny because, you know, like you said, all those different things. It means this about this. It means we're connected like this. Also, I was trying to take us on a journey, right? We were at emails.
Yep.
So like you get an email, something funny, you're like, ha ha ha, and show this to a bunch of people. And then like I said, E-Bombs World and stuff. So like now I'm in a setting because email was like a home thing. I wasn't checking. Nobody at that time in our age group was checking email like in public. We like check email at the house to like get on AOL or whatever, Yahoo, that sort of thing. I'd imagine people a bit older than us were at work laughing at stuff or sending stuff to each other. We're talking about millennials. And so then we moved into websites. So like there'd be a website where there'd be a meme. And so we could go and like show the people at the library or the like people in the room, in the house, in the vicinity, in the immediate area. Like, hey, look at this. Let me show you this thing that I think is funny. And then you'll show people in your network, and it'll just it traveled around the country like that. Things, we all seen the same things through word of mouth. And so it just always is very interesting to me now how things go viral and like how easy it is for them to go viral, and even how easy it is for you to license viral content, because like a video can be a meme, but also you can license that video and it's no longer a meme. It is, it's like IP.
Yeah.
And now anytime someone uses it, or if I try to, because I notice this a lot, I have read an article about how, you know, how much more difficult it is for black content creators to license their things than white content creators, and it was like surprise. But it was apparent when there's a gentleman who does kind of like the Stitch video reactions, where it's like a person cooking some weird food. Maybe they're like cooking it on the table or in the toilet or something, and he's just like laughing or talking about it. They would take his videos down because it's like, this video is property of X, Y, and Z. Just like if you were to put a Beyonce song on your Instagram story, that's not through Instagram, how they'll snatch it down. So it was very similar to that, and I was like, wow, this is interesting, because I've never seen someone do that with like a content from a black creator, like I said, and it'd be like, hey, you can't use this content. So it's very interesting.
Well, it's like if you think about this, and then you think about like the contribution that in America black people have given to culture, right? Mm-hmm. Just like culture in general, with the contribution to all of that, like that we swim in. It is so there's like definition of meme. There's two definitions. If you look it up anywhere, you're gonna find like this definition, then you're gonna find like a funny and humorous picture or video on the internet. Like you find that secondary definition, but the main one was an idea, behavior, style, or usage that spreads from person to person within a culture. That's all it was. It's like an idea, behavior, style. And there's like a quote on it. It was like memes, which are discrete units of knowledge, gossip, jokes, are to cultural genes, are what genes are to life. Biological evolution is driven by the survival of the fittest genes in a gene pool. Cultural evolution is driven by the most successful memes. So like what ideas stick Right? So if like you're sitting around, and I think this like we see this happening all the time. You see it in politics, right? Like there's ideas that sort of like have a moment and then they stick and they become sticky. And we don't understand why a bunch of people think a particular thing, but it sticks, you know? Or you're like, it's, and it drives the culture. Like the culture revolves around it. Like it is the conversation.
Coffee break. You know, so like there's a famous psychologist.
I can't find the psychologist who was connected to it, but it was, it looks like this like factory in Wisconsin was like one of the first ones they started advertising, like have a coffee break. And it was like a Pan American Coffee Bureau. Like it was like the lobbying group of coffee importers, probably. I'm betting at the time that it was like importers being like, how do we get people to drink more coffee? Like have a smoke break, have a coffee break, you know?
Yeah, I don't know. I heard that in a psychology class. Maybe I read it in the book when I went to college.
It was like United Auto Workers at Chrysler, Ford, and GM ended up negotiating a 12-minute coffee break into their workday. That was like a decade after in 1952, coffee break was like used in ad campaigns for the first time. Wow.
But it's just like
stunning. It's like a meme, right? And so now, let's grab a coffee is this cultural thing. And it drives, you know, habits. It drives all sorts of things.
It's just like beer was prohibited, and then it was like now you see people like gathering around on television to drink a beer. I mean, well, this is also like 100 years ago, but even still, it was a thing, you know.
Yeah. It's like humans have existed for a long time without drinking coffee or without drinking beer. There's plenty of that don't now. But within cultures, you end up. It becomes like a shared thing that really quickly you're like, oh, let's grab a drink.
Oh yeah.
And then someone's like, I'm not drinking. And you're like, you just glitched us a little bit, right?
So like you're a monk.
But so I think
you're a monk. That's why you don't drink. You're a monk.
So this person who asked this is a fantastic designer who asked about memes. Let me talk about the future of memes, or even like memes on the rise. What are the next ones to come? And I think you have to look at things that are like larger than your own world because the internet is making everything interconnected. And the memes so I think like right now, there are a lot of people who don't participate in cryptocurrency or Bitcoin or NFTs or any of those things, blockchain stuff. But it is a well rehearsed. It is a meme that everybody knows. Like we make jokes about it all the time, right? We're like, that's a cool. Like that's a cool tweet. I should make an NFT of it or whatever, right? But because of its power, it's becoming a cultural thing. It's going to have power to evolve into something. If you're just thinking of like funny images on the rise, I would use like whatever is a meme of popular culture things. Like Squid Game has like, you know, whatever the new like big Netflix show is that everybody feels like is watching, or like whatever. I'm trying to think of like whatever album drops that everyone listens to. So like Adele doing things is going to be like the meme for the next.
There was a thread of people talking about like their favorite internet jokes, and so like internet jokes are definitely, you know, seen as memes. And that Joker one, the one where Joaquin Phoenix, his name is really Joaquin or Joaquin.
Yeah, I don't know, and I wouldn't correct anyone. And as long as I know who you're talking about,
but I only ask because Waka Flocka's name is Joaquin.
They're different people, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Cool.
But anyway, man, this guy has the same name as that guy. But people were saying that that's still one of the ones that cracks them up. Yeah. When you make a bad joke and then you put that Joker picture under where he's like on the stage doing the stand up eating, he's just like eating it. He's like looking awkward. So that one.
And those memes work. Like some of those memes work even if you have never seen Joker. You could just tell by the body language and the image and the face and all that other stuff. You know, like that's where they work on a lot of different levels. Where they work at the level of an insider who's like a big fan of the movie and understands the context of it all. It still works there. But then it works like you remember when everyone was doing the Harlem Shake? Remember when everyone was doing planking, right?
Yes.
Like planking's not a photo. It's not a meme. But that's like everyone knew what planking was for a minute because. You see someone do it, you're like, what is that? And then you could explain to you, and you know.
What are you see? And also, there's like classic memes. You know, like some of my favorite classic memes would be like, there's a girl with a ponytail and a purple shirt, and she's like, got her hand up, and she's like really confused. She's like, "What?" Mm-hmm. It looks like she's like in a cafeteria. Like, that's one of my favorite ones.
Yeah,
you know, and I love when people like do edits to memes. I love when like they put there's a distortion bot that you can tweet, and you can make this distortion bot turn a picture into a video and like add different effects to it and put music to it. And so that's one of my favorite things about memes. So let's see, we got Girl in the Purple Shirt. That's one of my favorite ones. I don't know if there are any more that are appropriate.
It was like what's wild is that you say that, and I can't picture it in my brain, but if you search Girl in a Purple Shirt meme, like the internet knows like to give you exactly that thing.
Exactly.
So,
and then, man, it would be, you know what? I got number 2 right here. There's a gentleman who walks into what seems like a barbershop. It's a very tiny, it's either a barbershop or a chicken shack. And he has on what appears to be his Sunday's best. And he's like dancing. And his song's like, it's like, I walk in, dipping my shoulders, I think. And he's just like dancing. He's got this bottle of liquor in his hand. He's just like bouncing and twirling around. You know, he's got these really regal clothes on. And I think number 3, and this is just because I can remember it now, like I didn't put a list together or anything, so this is like off the top of my head. Like these are all things like if you show them to me right now, I'm laughing at. There's a guy named Famous Amos who just dances, like, and it's just the most absolute thing. He just dances to the song called I Bet You Won't, and it's absolutely wonderful.
Yeah. Whispering Goosebumps is one of my favorite ones to use to people because you can use it for anything and it makes sense.
The what is it?
It's called Whispering Goosebumps. You can use it like on the top. You can use it for like yes. I had a friend who tweeted a smart thing that I really liked. I took the tweet, threw it in the meme, sent it to him, and I was like, it communicated that like it made me have a feeling other than like me typing, I love that dude. Like I love that dude means something different than your text atop of someone having something whispered into their ear and then a photo of people's like hair standing on end and getting goosebumps on their arm. Like we understand what that means. Mm-hmm. That feeling is a whole different one. Mm-hmm. And it just took me longer to explain what I'm doing than to just actually make the meme and send it to my friend.
Exactly.
That's why memes are great.
That's it.
It's art.
That's not up for debate, No. We're not arguing that. Adam, you like the zoo? You think zoos are cool?
Someone asked us to talk about zoos, and I was like, this is going to be the most controversial take on it.
Yeah.
So I'll say,
okay.
1, I really enjoy going to the zoo a lot of times in different places in my life. And I understand that zoos do a lot of conservation work and they do a lot of useful things in protecting creatures in the world. So I have enjoyed them. I understand that there are purposes that they serve in the world. I don't like that they exist. Our world would be better. Our world would be better if zoos didn't exist, not because zoos are ruining the world, but because the world is as such that zoos must exist to protect things that shouldn't have to be protected the way that they have to be protected. And that makes me sad. And so I always feel sad at zoos all the time. And I didn't feel that way much until recently. I'm like, man, I know it is cool that I get to see this particular animal. It probably isn't that cool for this animal to be seen by me. Probably could be doing something else. But I also understand that humans have lived life in such a way to pretty much kill all of those animals. And now we have to like cage them up so that a bunch of other humans don't kill them again still. And that all just sucks, sort of.
But also, like, as a person, as an adult from the inner city, I don't really care about animals like that.
Really?
That don't be crossing my mind. Like, I have a dog who I love. I like dogs, right? And I like cats.
You have a strong relationship with your dog.
Yeah, that's my boy. He doesn't listen to this, but if he did, he He would like it.
Maybe you start listening to it.
I'll just play it for him.
If he cared.
He doesn't care about a lot. He likes what he likes. Like, he likes to lick your feet. If you pull him out, he's like, oh, I see what time
Does
it
it
is.
not feel like it? It's not an equal relationship. You're more invested, and he's kind of like, take him or leave him, but it's, gets me food. It's cool.
Yeah, nah. He's if he has way, we would be married.
Yeah. Okay.
He's really into me. He just sits under me. You know what I'm saying? He's just always like right there. So that's my boy. But I like cats and dogs. Like, I had a friend growing up who had like a ferret. And I was like, I don't see the point of having this.
Really?
Yeah. But
yeah. Well, like teammates, we got teammates, like, got a lot of different animals. My friend Lauren, who we both know, has got like...
She got turtle and stuff.
Yeah, she got all kinds of things. And, a respecter of nature. So I think like I'll say this, throughout human history, cultures that treat humans really well also treat animals really well. And cultures that treat animals very poorly tend to treat other humans very poorly as well. And so sometimes I grew up on a farm and we, had a lot of animals. Yeah, well, we had a lot of animals and they fed people. We were raising them as a product to sell. And so in a bunch of ways, I probably am pretty desensitized to some of that. There's a lot of people who like maybe treat animals on the same level as humans, and I can understand that conceptually. I don't feel that. But what I'll say is that humans that treat animals and environment and nature well tend to treat other humans well on the whole, and so it seems like a thing aspirationally we should be into.
This is how I live life. Like, I don't have, like I said, I don't care about animals, right?
Yeah.
But like, if I go somewhere and there's animals out there, like if I'm in the woods and some animals pop up, I'm not finna be like, get out of here, rough. Try to make noise and scare them off. Yeah. I'm showing them as much respect as I would show a normal person.
Like, I came to your house.
I'm like, hello, y'all. Like, I'm trying to be very friendly because number one, if it has to be you or me, like, I'm going to make sure that it's you, but it could possibly be me.
I'm anti-zoos. I'm anti-zoos. I'm going to say that. Because the question asked, and I want to be honest, is I'm anti-zoos. I'm not a hater. I don't spend much energy on dismantling zoo.
No, I'm anti-SeaWorld, though. If SeaWorld's listening to this,
yeah.
You.
We were just in Orlando, and there's a big SeaWorld thing in the airport, and Allie and I both flipped it off as we're going down the escalator.
Yeah, no,
it's important to do. So that's like where I'm anti-zoos. If someone invites me to a zoo to go with them, I might go if I care about that person and I can tell that they really love it. I would like participate in their world with them. If it's at all crowded, I wouldn't want to go. If there's a chance that it would be crowded on a weekend, I don't want to go.
And see, we came from an era where you could smoke cigarettes at the zoo. It's a different ball game now. The zoo's the zoo is not as smoggy as it was in the early 2000s. Yeah. It was like a freshest big boy smoker section at the Columbus Zoo. But
that's my zoo take. Anti-zoos.
You like freshest big boy?
Freshest big boy, I don't care about it. I have no feelings. Neutral.
Oh, man. It's not hitting like it used to. Okay, real quick. Why is Claire the best sister ever?
So my sister's name is Claire. Someone asked.
Not her.
Not her. Why do I have the best sister? I think was the question.
Ever. No, not just the best sister, like ever, like of all sisters.
Why is Claire the best sister of... Let me see this. Why Claire is the best sister. So Claire is the best sister to me.
That's number one.
She's the only sister I have. So it's not that hard to...
I'll edit that out. She won't ever know about it. She'll just be like, oh, man, thanks.
Claire's the best in that she is a thoughtful and considerate person who also is doing her own thing and amazing at the stuff that she does, and also a good buddy, friend. And it's my favorite. I like people, I talked about earlier, I'm a community person. I like the relationship stuff, but I also like when people get to do their own thing, have that going on. So she's got both those things.
Very interesting point that you make about being a community person. I showed someone a picture that you took with your sister and your brother next to you, and they noticed that you looked very, very, very happy.
Yeah.
Like it was like right,
Yeah. My siblings are my friends. I know not everyone has the luxury of that I have been afforded, but I got to a place. I'm the oldest of three, and as my siblings got on and like got their own job, a career established, things like that, they just became my friends. They're just like my friends that I have, and I kind of treat them that way.
You don't try to big brother them? Like,
yeah, I try. Well, I mean, I feel like
you might.
Sometimes you got to be in charge of some things,
Got to get bend together.
Gotta whip people into shape and make sure that everybody's doing the right things.
Yeah, bro.
But I don't do much of that. I kind of like let people do their thing and just be friends to them the way I would want someone to be a friend to me.
Yeah. Adam, I always do this, and so I want to continue to do this. I'm going to just take the opposite. And I feel like you are their friend. They aren't your friends.
Maybe.
Yeah. So
maybe.
That's one of my favorite things to do.
Oh, just be contrarian?
Yeah.
It is fun.
Sometimes if the person doesn't understand the joke, being contrarian can be kind of silly. Like if I was like, the world is round, and you was like, the world is flat.
Maybe it's fun and feels good, but sometimes it can make relationships worse. So you gotta think about like what you're trying to do.
It's not like
my sister's great.
No, Claire is wonderful. Ben is wonderful.
You just hung out with us and did pretty great at trivia. We did great at trivia together.
Yeah.
And you were a big part of that. I'll tell you who wasn't. Me. I'm not so great at trivia.
You contributed to the evening.
I had some things.
Yeah. No, I'm saying like you contributed to the evening.
There's been multiple times where I'm playing trivia. One of them was this time with you. Mm-hmm. Another time was previously. We're playing trivia. And someone has to go do something outside, has to leave the building. And this time it was like someone needs to go pick up that pizza. And I'm smart enough and a team player to understand whoever's the worst at trivia should be the one picking up the pizza. So as me. Link. And then the other time I was playing trivia with a bunch of people, there was a person who was an important part of our team whose parking meter had ran up. And they're like, I gotta go fill up my parking meter. And other people on the team looked at me and were like, Adam, you go fill up her parking meter because you're not contributing very much. And she is,
That's real, man.
You got a team player.
You think the earth is flat, Adam?
Someone
real
asked
quick,
about...
Before I get into
do I think the earth is flat? I know the earth is flat.
That's fine.
But no, I don't think it is.
Before we get into it, though, I wanted to tell our listeners, right? Like, being contrarian is fun. This isn't a Christian podcast or anything, but like, people say like...
This is definitely not a Christian podcast.
Yeah, well, 100%. And they're like, I want to play the devil's advocate. And it's like, the devil doesn't really need an advocate.
Right, yeah.
That's always been a favorite saying of mine is like, the devil doesn't need an advocate.
Yeah.
So we won't. But what we will do...
Somebody asked about wants us to talk about flat earth.
Bingo.
Right.
Honestly, bro, I really don't care. Like, I don't care if the dinosaurs existed. I don't care if the earth is round or flat. This information does nothing to my psyche. Like, I've come to terms with a lot of the stuff that we've like been told. It was like whatever.
Totally. So you mentioned that this is not a Christian podcast. Mm-hmm. So, but if you think about throughout all of history in religions, they have like made up answers to what they could see, right? Like we're like, oh yeah, the sun seems to go around the earth from how we sit here and look at things, right? And that makes sense. And then at some point, some like priest monk person says that's a fact and says it's in the Bible somewhere or whatever. And then you're like, and then one day some people get some telescopes out, we start looking at different things, we get some different ways of seeing things, and we like learn that's wrong, right? Mm-hmm. What blows my mind about flat earth world is that it's not like they're reverse engineering facts based on how they can perceive things at the moment. It is they're ignoring the visible earth and information that we can look at and coming to a conclusion saying the earth is flat, right? Like we've regressed. We've gone backwards into all of that. And I'm like, it's very confusing. I don't know why that happens. Like, how does... I can understand that we have different, like there's a lot of like scientific information that's been shown at points in the world where you're like, oh yeah, there's like differing ways of looking at this. Like, are eggs bad for you to eat? At some point, people said yes. Some people said no. Like, do a different study, do a different thing, like whatever. I can understand we have like differing information. This seems to be one that is like manufactured without any information, but it seems to be like a scientific answer. Like, like we can tell that this is wrong based on a whole bunch of different things.
Well, it's like you said, bro, there's so many, like if this was 1980, we could still have this debate, it would have only been like, 11 years ago, 1969 or 59, was it? 59.
That what happened?
We went to the moon?
No, I just mean like
No, well, I'm saying like we went to the moon, they had pictures, and people are like, man, we don't know about that. Like, now, compare that to now. Compare 1980 to now.
Yeah.
Like, we have so much more information about the moon. We have, there's like...
And you can figure out the Earth is round and not flat by just walking around. Like, is not require a lot. Like, it doesn't require a lot. Like, like an eclipse would look like a flat line instead of a circle, like on the moon,
But like I'm saying, like we've seen pictures, right? You can look on your phone and look at the Earth. If you have a PlayStation 3, you've seen the Earth multiple times. While
you have a PlayStation 3. That's the problem. Is flat Earthers never had a PlayStation 3.
They were Xbox people.
And it just took too long.
Yeah, no. So it was like a visualizer, and it would just be like the Earth, and it was like courtesy of NASA. And so you could see like the Earth at night, and it would be lit up, and like you could see the United States and stuff like that. There was a TikTok that like somebody was live from outer space, and I don't know how like verifiable it was, but I'd imagine that to send like transmissions between the space station and Earth, you have to have some sort of satellite internet thing, and so I would imagine that you could connect that to some sort of device and then get on TikTok, and like the person was just like in outer space, like working on the space station, and so I'm like, man, with all of this proof, it's just strange. It's not necessarily strange to me that people believe it. It's strange to me that people will support people believing it, because it's like accountability, even if you like people.
Yeah, why are we gonna have this? I'm just like, why are we I think whatever it is that lets humans be down into the flat Earth game is the defect of our species, of being like, there's something about this. It's our like inability, like we want to double down when we're wrong, or like we want to like, it is when we go extinct, it's going to be because of whatever that little switch is. We should study it. We should try and understand it. We should figure out like,
we got to pathologize it.
How do we like how do we get people to not? It's important to our succeeding that we like act based on things we can observe. I think
we try to get people to avoid the propaganda.
Yeah,
to the greater good of the human species.
Yeah. So
this is great, man. This was, you feel me? This was a lot more relaxed. Definitely wasn't like a normal episode. There weren't as many.
Oh, I'm heated up. This is not relaxing to me. I like want to get into it.
I see you like.
I'm like ready to pounce something.
You got the jitters. Like your fingers were twisted up. I'm sure that like your insole is destroyed in your shoe. You probably got your toes all curled up. You gonna mess the hardwood floor.
I'm like, there's like a lot of stress.
Let's get up out of here.
They're talking about zoos. That was what got me.
All I could think about was SeaWorld and what is it, Shamu?
Dude, there was this moment where Allie and I were dating, and she had just gotten her wisdom teeth taken out, and she had back home, or back in her hometown, and then I was living in Columbus. I was here before her, and she came over. She was like, I'm gonna come visit, and she was like in a lot of pain. And I was at the zoo with a bunch of people on a Saturday or whatever. And she got there and she's like, I'm going to meet you at the zoo. And I was like, she walked around in pain, and she's more anti-zoo than I am. And just had to be like in a top 10 bad experience of her life, of being like, I hate this time that I'm spending today. Of just like, I don't even like being here, and I'm in pain the whole time. But you got to be around me, was a 6-hour drive she made to hang out with me during a bad time. So
you must be a top tier person.
Well,
that's debatable. But what's not debatable is the Gym Club is on Instagram at THEGEM_club.
Check out the show notes and learn more about the Gem Club. And keep questions coming. We like talking about stuff that people want to talk about. I think we'll start doing this a bit more.
Definitely.
Get into some things. We had a couple of questions that I'm going to pull an expert in at some point on. We'll talk about like sneakers, the app. Is it a scam? I want to get like a crowd to talk about that. We can get some friends to... We'll do a party episode. We wanted to do that for a while.
Yeah. We'll get some conspiracy theorists to really give us the behind the scenes about the sneakers app.
Yep.
Man. TheGymClub.com launching very soon. Sooner rather than later.
Thanks for listening.